Well, good afternoon on a frigid Thursday afternoon. Usually we do our broadcast on Friday, but because of a conflict, hey, I decided to do it today. So here we are with this week's edition of the CVC Home Service Success Network, brought to you every week and presented by CVC Success Group. And what's our mission? What's our reason for doing it? To share ideas, to share concepts, to share processes, things that you might can just start in your own business and in your own life to make some real dedicated changes to it. You've heard a lot of people on here as our guests that have went through a lot of changes that they've actually affected others by telling their story. So our topic today, what is it? Why is change so hard for so many? Why is it so hard? So, there's some things I want to start this off with, but what we're going to talk about today. But one of the things is there's a book out there. It's written by a guy by the name of Marshall Goldsmith, and it says, "What got you here won't get you there. Won't get you there. You got to make up changes in order to get where you want to go." So why is change so dabbling difficult for so many people? As a coach, this is what I go through with clients. Some can make the changes, some relish change, but the majority of them, they fight it because it's not comfortable. So here's some of the reasons why change is so difficult. Number one, when you start changing, it feels like loss before you ever feel the gain. Number two, there's a fear of the unknown. It's stronger than discomfort. Change threatens our identity. It wants us to become a different person. If I grow, will people expect more from me? If I change, will I still belong? All these things come in. Then we look at our own human brain that's built to conserve energy, and change requires energy. Another thing is that comfort zone. People confuse comfort with safety. People also have a fear of failure, failing publicly, being judged, feeling incompetent. And they also sometimes have a fear of success and what it may bring. Number seven, our past experiences in life. We carry a lot of emotional baggage with us. We have social pressure. It keeps people stuck where they're at. Change forces decisions, and decisions create accountability. You can keep saying, well, someday I'm going to do it, maybe later, but change requires a commitment. It requires grief because usually what you've got to do is decide what you're going to give up because something's not working, something's over with. But here's the truth: people don't actually resist change, they resist the feelings that change brings. Once people feel supported, once they feel safe, once they're clear of where they're going and where they're capable, okay, this is what it's all about. But these are some of the reasons why people fight change. They fight change. You see it every day. If we look at it, let's look at a business model that was on top of the world, but it didn't accept change that needed to be done. And that was Sears Roebuck. Sears Roebuck did not change. If Sears Roebuck had made the changes that needed to be made, they would be bigger than Amazon today. They really would be. Because Amazon disrupted their market because they brought in new ideas, new concepts from a guy selling books out of his garage. And there's so many things, stories like this that you can research and you can come up with. But one thing's inevitable: life is going to require change. So, Cheryl, I'm going to turn it over to you. What's your feelings on change?
I don't understand why people are so afraid to change. I mean, you jump in and drown, or you jump in and swim. I know it's the fear of failure is the biggest one that I hear people talking about. But wouldn't it be better to say, I'm glad I did instead of, I wish I had? I think that is where people find the most problem after they have after they've not made the change and years down the road they can see what it was done, well, then there's the fear of failure that's going to kick in again. So I think, a lot of times you can't make the major changes just all at one time. You have to take little steps. It's not a big step. It's you take the little ones, you move from this level to this level, and then you can move to the next. But I have a hard time understanding it because personally, I like things to change. They get kind of boring when they're always looking the same. We've all made that problem in all of our businesses. We've not changed when we should have. There was some in IBD I wish I would have made. Didn't. Um, Now I look back on it and wonder where I would have been if I had. And I think that is what people need to look at. Where are you going to be in 5 years if you don't change?
And Cheryl, you and I had a unique opportunity because we have studied and been involved with some really great change people in our lifetime. We were involved with Larry Winget, Randy Pennington, Scott McCain. All three of those gentlemen had a very dedicated impact on what we do, what we did, and what we do today. But changing is required. In fact, one of the things that Larry had me do was develop a point of view. And I decided my point of view was going to be on pain. And I came up with the following point of view: change is painful. It's up to each of us to decide if the pain of change is greater than remaining in the pain you are in, because we want different things in our life. I still go back. One of the guests that we had a few months ago was Steve Sobsack. And Steve has told his story in front of people now. And you look at it, and Steve was a mess. He was a true mess. He tell you, if you listen to him, he'll tell you the story about what all he went through. But yet, whenever he decided to change, he changed remarkably. And it has changed him as a human being. It's changed him as a business owner. He made a post this morning about how great it was to see the reviews that were coming in from his workforce today. Are they perfect? No. It's a continuing, ongoing challenge because the people have to accept change. Josh is working with a client right now. We just started him with about a week or two ago. And there's going to be some dedicated changes in this business. He's already seeing the things that are going as it goes through the data. So, Josh, what's your viewpoint on change? You're a person that's gone through change in your life. Steve influenced you greatly. You
Yep.
went from working in a family business to now doing this, working as a software consultant, helping people in their businesses get their software straightened out. How do you view change, Josh?
It's extremely hard. As I tell my friends, I said I thought getting to the gym would be the hard part, but it's not, because you develop friendships and it becomes social. I didn't count on that part of my fitness plan or what have you. The social aspect making me want to go and holding you accountable, because they're like, hey, where were you? Um, the food challenges I found to be much harder because there's nobody to hold me accountable to that. Um, the business change has been, to be honest with you, was nice. I don't, I had, I deal well with high functioning people, but not necessarily always low functioning people. As you know, I can't stand to ask the same question over and over. But, again, like we were talking, I've seen it. Good, honest people who care about the business as of recently, who you want there, just need to be shown maybe the numbers, that this is, where this is going to take us, by doing things this way. Because I was shocked by, some pricing and things like that. And they're like, well, nobody's going to pay this. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, when I started dating my wife, filet mignon was $7.99 a pound. That was our normal. That was a normal Friday thing for me to pick up a portion of filet mignon from the local butcher shop, come home, and the whole family would have dinner for $30. you know, the same price at that same store is now $21 a pound on an everyday. That's the everyday price. But honestly, things have changed. Now it also changed my buying behavior because I'm not willing to spend $100 to feed my entitled teenagers, in my opinion. But yeah, it's happened. I remember that book, Who Moved My Cheese, is the biggest example. You can either choose to die or you can choose to live, type thing. I always wonder about people that are like, the people that always tried food for the first time, like, oh, let's see if this mushroom's going to kill us or not, or this berry. Those are the people, like, those are like the really adventurous ones, because, you know, they had to learn. And is this going to kill me, or how did I like food sciences to where something's not going to kill me anymore? Those are always like, we have to take the seeds out so it won't kill us, you know. And I'm like, well, who figured that out? You know, it's basic survival if you look at it that way.
It's kind of like the guy that was the test for the first bulletproof vest. Somebody that put a vest on, people fired a machine gun at him. Think about that. I mean, really, what was the bravery it took for that guy to step in front of a rifle from that standpoint? But there's another aspect to change, and I think this is one of the biggest parts. It is called sustaining the change. We all know people in our lifetime who have started to change, and then they could not sustain the change. How many people do you know that have gone on weight loss plans? And yeah, they lose a pound or two, and then they're right back up, and sometimes they're heavier than they were before they started. If people go through change, but you have to sustain it. And sustaining change, I think, is the hard part. It's also recognizing when change needs to be done. That's the people that I really admire. They can see the problem. You can tell them the problem, and they decide to take action. I can still remember doing an analysis, an on-site analysis for a new client, and being in his office. And we were talking about something, a subject that's really dear to my heart, which is the waste factor in the home service business. And I told him there, and he told me something. He said, Jerry, we don't have no waste in this business.
Oh,
Well, that was about 9:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in that afternoon. After observing him, I just asked the question, hey, brother, I thought you didn't have any waste in this business. What have I seen going on all day here is the waste. So, Cheryl, how do people sustain the change? What's the secret? What's the process here they got to go through to be successful?
You have to hold yourself accountable, number one. Or actually, the best part is to have someone to help you be to hold you accountable, because, as you know, a lot of your clients rely on the team to keep them accountable to what they decide. Because the thing about it is, you can't always do it yourself. Josh said it just earlier. When he goes to work out in there, or when he doesn't go, somebody's holding him up, and you can't always do it by yourself. I think change is something that has to be a group. And like when you change in a company, when you start changing your company, you've got to get your employees to buy in, or it won't work. So I think going at change as a group is a whole lot easier a lot of times than just trying it on your own.
That's it. Josh, what about you? What about what about sustaining the change? How do you do it?
That is hard, because it takes how long does it take to sustain change? It's at least 90 days.
According to Cheryl's research, she said one time, in Ziegler research, they said 69 days. Is that correct, Cheryl?
Yeah, 69 days. And that's only if you want to stay there.
Yeah. No, it's hard. Like, I'm on weight loss drugs, and I walked through the candy aisle and I didn't buy anything yesterday because I wanted to change. It's definitely hard because I can feel that my body's like, oh, those junior mints look really good, buddy. And I'm like, no, not today. But getting up and just like workout routine is where it's going to be, taking your medicine first thing in the morning, or do you take your coffee, or, we had a week where we couldn't get out here recently, and, crap, I can't tell you how bad my morning routine was, because it's like, oh, I don't have to go run to the gym. So I'd sit on the couch with my laptop, and then next thing I know, 3 hours are gone by and I didn't take my medicine. I haven't eaten breakfast. Now I feel like crap. So it's, it's really hard to maintain, to do it, but I'm seeing results. And that's, what are your metrics to really, what's going to drive you, to make these changes?
Yeah, it is. So, but it's a necessary part of life. One of my hardest challenges was actually learning how to speak and take a pause, how to just stop, how to listen to people without understanding them. That took a tremendous amount of self-control to be able to do that, to go on in front of a group of people. And people used to tell me, hey, Jerry, we ought to get double CUs for going to your classes because you got more words in a minute than anybody we know, because I spit it out like a fire hose. But what I was taught through mentors and coaches is how to slow down, how to allow the words to sink in, and how to listen without interrupting people. It's a very difficult thing, but the changes that you can go through if you set your mind to it. Do you fail sometimes? You better believe it. Sometimes I catch myself. I'm interrupting somebody, and I have to tell them, whoa, I apologize. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Cheryl, can you give something that you've had to change that was really hard to sustain?
It's kind of like yours. It's the speed of my voice. I'm a type D, just like you. I talk like a northern southerner. I talk at 90 miles an hour. But doing the interviews, I found out that people were not hearing what I said. When I was doing something, they weren't hearing what I said. And I went back, and I knew this, but I had to do a little research for myself. The type D is the smallest percentage in the DISC factor. God knew what he was doing when he only put 13% of us around. But to be able to speak to an S&C, and this is the same thing you found out, you have got to slow your speech down, because they absorb things. That they're not like a high D that lets them pass by and then goes back and thinks about them later. They absorb them. So I found out that I had to just learn to speak like you, slower also. And actually, I've got to the point now that I do it naturally, which is probably a good thing. But that's one thing I had to do. And I also had to learn to let go of things. It was a hard thing for me to let go of IBD. It really was, because it had been so much a part of my life. But I had to change. I had to let it go. So, yeah, I think, and that was for the better. But the way it is now, everyone has to have a reason. We know people right now that are retiring because they don't want to. They're retiring because they have to. So the pain of change is there with them. I just wanted to say that because there's some really great people out there having to retire at this moment.
Yeah. Josh, what about you? Anything you could share about something that you have changed where it was difficult to sustain it?
Well, my temper was a good one.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good. You were one of my more violent clients. You used to love to go out and load dock, threaten to whoop somebody's butt, if I remember correctly. So yeah,
that only happened once, and he really deserved it. But no, I had to learn to be not like my dad, because my dad was not what did I say? Not a teacher.
Your dad was a very hard man to get his approval. Would you agree?
Very. Um, but that goes for in business and in life. But I had to learn that not everybody's going to put the care into it that I did, and my dad never really understood that. But letting go of jobs at the office where I know, like, getting out of the field was extremely hard because I know I was a really good technician, but then the business wasn't running itself. One of those things. So it's like, well, you're gonna lose the revenue, but the business is stuck here at in second gear. But yeah, literally learning my temper, and how I handled things, and that was very hard, especially early in the business when there was just, and really the company was running by the seat of its pants. There was no SOPs, things like that, and we were doing some really stupid things that really just pissed me off.
Yeah, I understand. So, again, change can be painful. It's painful to anybody. Very few people relish continuous change. It's not like your car where you just trade it in, get a different one because you get tired of that car. That's real easy. You just write a check, sign the papers, move into it, you got it. And then later you may have buyer's remorse or whatever. But changing yourself, it's probably one of the most difficult tasks that any human being will ever undergo. But we're here to help you. If we can help you make the needed changes in your business, then hey, give us a call. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what we can do for you. And with that, we're going to end this week's episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. We hope that the weather clears before long. This Arctic cold front moves on out. But the groundhog the other day up in Puxatawny said we got 6 more weeks of winter. And just a little bit ago, Cheryl was looking out. We had a pile of snow last weekend, and guess what? She saw more snow coming down. And we live in the South. It ain't supposed to be like this. And I'm getting ready to head up into the mountains of North Carolina to go to a meeting myself. So checking the weather forecast, it says, hey, no snow, 1%, that kind of stuff. So we're just hoping for the best. Anyway, we appreciate you joining us. As always, it's an honor, it's a privilege, it's a pleasure to be able to speak to you like this every week. Tune us in next week for the next episode of the CVC Home Service Success Network. Look forward to talking to you. Hope you have a great week. Hope you weather this Arctic frigid temperatures well. Talk to you then. Have a good one.